Have you ever felt that you are not alone? Even when no one is around, you might be in your home in silence. No voices, no footsteps, no noise at all. But still, something seems to be watching you. They say loneliness is an emotional state. But what if it's more than that? What if loneliness is a door, an invisible passage, that opens when the soul is empty, when the heart is tired, and thoughts scream in the dark? Perhaps what you call being alone is exactly the moment something waits, something that doesn't want to be seen, but never stops watching. You try to explain but no one understands. They say it's all in your head. But what if it's not? What if, in moments when everything seems calm, you are being watched? Loneliness can be a hiding place or a trap, and often it's in loneliness that these entities come close. What if I told you that you have never really been alone? Most people think loneliness is just an emotional thing, a consequence of lack of contact, conversations, hugs. But the truth is deeper. Loneliness doesn't only affect the heart. It corrodes the spirit. Have you felt that? That moment when everything is silent, but you feel something there. As if the environment had eyes. As if the air was heavier. As if the silence was charged with some invisible presence. This is not just sadness. It's a sign. When the heart isolates itself, when the soul closes, the spirit weakens. And everything you cannot see starts to come closer. There is a kind of darkness that doesn't need light to exist. It is born inside the person, feeds on fatigue, anguish, abandonment, and settles slowly like a shadow growing within. Deep loneliness is not just a mental state. It's fertile ground, an open invitation, a dark room where anything can enter. Because when the spirit is empty, what arrives first is not always peace. Sometimes it is unrest, a chill without wind, a repetitive, dark thought that you don't remember creating, and that is where the danger lies. The human soul was made to connect with the divine, with truth, with light. But when this connection breaks, what fills that space? Understand this. Loneliness, at certain levels, is not just a lack of company. It is a spiritual sign, a silent warning that there is an open breach, and open breaches attract presences. Not everything that approaches in silence comes in peace. There are subtle signs, small details that repeat almost imperceptibly. But little by little, they take over the environment, and the mind, not at first. The house becomes quieter than it should be. Not the natural silence of absence of people, but a heavy, dense silence that seems to suck all sound away, as if the very air has become thicker and still. Then the small noises start. Wood creaks, so soft they are barely noticed. Light footsteps, seeming to come from empty rooms. The slow creak of a door swinging on its own. You feel as if someone is behind you, but when you turn, there's nothing there. But it's not just the sounds that change. Thoughts change too. Negative ideas appear out of nowhere, like a dark cloud invading the mind. Thoughts you never had before, doubts you never considered. It's as if something is whispering, not with a voice, but with a silent, constant presence. This presence doesn't need to show itself. It doesn't need to appear physically or make loud noises. It feeds on the silence of your soul, on the emptiness it finds in your tired spirit. And the more you try to ignore it, the more this presence grows. Because it's not a passing visitor. It's a cycle, a pattern, a behavior that always repeats. In loneliness, in silence, in vulnerability. It is a dark reminder. Some presences live off the darkness you carry inside. And as long as this silence exists, it will be there. Waiting. There is a presence that rarely reveals itself to everyone. It chooses its moments and victims with silent precision. It's not a noisy creature, nor a violent force. It's something subtler, almost imperceptible, that approaches when no one else cares. When silence becomes complete, when prayer disappears and the divine presence seems absent, it is in that void that it finds its way. It does not invade suddenly or impose itself by force. It settles slowly, stealthily, starting as a faint shadow in the periphery of vision, a silent weight in the air you can't explain. Over time, this shadow grows. It stops being just a fleeting reflection to become a constant companion. It is there, even when you try to ignore it, a cold presence lodged in the cracks of your soul. This entity does not come to dialogue or to show itself. It only waits, feeding on forgetfulness, loneliness, absence of light. And the more isolated you become, the stronger it gets, until it becomes impossible to tell where you end and where the shadow walking beside you begins. The presence of this entity is not like an intruder forcing entry. It doesn't break down doors, doesn't smash windows, doesn't need to announce itself. It is patient, silent, and knows exactly how to find a breach, a portal that we ourselves unknowingly open. The first of these portals is lack of prayer and spiritual vigilance. When we stop connecting with the divine, when we forget to strengthen our faith and inner protection, we create an empty space, a half-open door to the invisible world. It's as if we turn off the house lights, inviting darkness to enter and spread. The second portal is self-destructive thoughts. These thoughts start small, like doubt, criticism, fear. When we allow them to grow, to be nurtured, they become open wounds in the soul. Wounds that attract what is dark, serving as a bridge to this invisible presence. Constantly thinking the worst, feeding feelings of guilt, anger, hatred, or despair, is like leaving a window unlocked even if you close the front door. Another path we use, often unknowingly, is excessive consumption of dark content. Images, stories, sounds, thoughts loaded with negativity and fear, without any spiritual filter to balance and protect the mind. When we dive too deep into this type of energy, we create a resonance, a tuning that can attract presences feeding on that darkness. It does not need to invade by force. It only needs you to forget to lock the door, to lower the guard of your soul, to allow, even unintentionally, that silence becomes an invitation. And so, little by little, almost unnoticed, it enters and settles, waiting, growing, feeding on your absence until it becomes part of your dark daily life. Often, the presence of this entity does not manifest clearly or directly. It acts subtly, infiltrating the soul and leaving traces we do not always immediately perceive. But there are signs, spiritual symptoms, indicating you have been visited by this invisible shadow. The first sign is a deep feeling of emptiness, even after moments that should bring joy. You may be surrounded by people, living happy situations, yet still feel a hole inside, an absence nothing fills. It's as if the light has been sucked away, leaving only a cold echo in your heart. Another common symptom is difficulty praying or connecting spiritually. You try to seek peace through faith, through prayers, but feel an invisible barrier blocking the connection. Words seem empty, the heart won't open, and the mind shuts down. It's as if something inside resists, preventing the light from entering. Nightmares become frequent. Sleep, which should be a refuge, turns into a silent battlefield. You feel watched in the dark, not truly alone in your room. This feeling of invisible eyes, a constant presence around you, steals peace from your rest. Additionally, inner voices begin to arise, not audible voices, but thoughts that discourage and break you down. They repeat phrases like, "You are alone. No one cares. It's no use trying." These dark whispers invade your mind, undermining your strength and hope. These signs are not mere accidents of a tired mind. They are warnings from the spirit, clear indicators that this presence has crossed your path, settled in, and tries to dominate your inner silence. Recognizing these symptoms is the first step to seeking light, protecting yourself, and closing. The doors opened in moments of vulnerability. We live in a fast-paced world where daily rush, social media, and constant flood of information keep us anesthetized. The phone always in hand, notifications popping up, the mind jumping from topic to topic without rest. This constant distraction acts like an invisible veil, covering what lies beyond our immediate reach. You might think you're alone, isolated, in that moment of silence, but the truth is, there are eyes, invisible, attentive eyes, watching every step you take. They don't need to show in bright light or loud noise. They hide in the shadows of your inattention, in the hurry that prevents you from feeling, from noticing what's around out. And if you have never stopped to notice this silent presence, this entity haunting your spirit, it's because it doesn't want you to see. It depends on this anonymity, this invisibility guaranteed by your distraction and the constant noise of modern life. While you scroll your phone, watch videos, reply to messages, it is there, a shadow on the periphery of your awareness, growing and strengthening in your lack of focus. This absence of attention is your greatest vulnerability. It's as if a veil covers your eyes, an anesthetic preventing your sixth sense from awakening. It feeds on your forgetfulness, your inability to be present in the moment, to feel the weight of silence and the movement of invisible energies. The danger is right there. You think you are safe, protected inside your routine, but the truth is, precisely because you don't look, because you don't feel, this entity gains space and power. And when you finally notice, it will be too late to deny. You have never really been alone. There was always something there, watching, waiting, growing. In the silence you never wanted to hear. Through the ages, many have shared experiences that seem taken from dark stories, yet are real, accounts of invisible presences accompanying the quietest, loneliest moments of life. A young woman, for example, lived an apparently normal routine. But on nights when she was alone in her room, something inexplicable happened. She heard low whispers, almost inaudible, coming from dark corners. These whispers had no clear words, only sounds seeming to call her attention, provoke fear and anguish. She tried to ignore them, telling herself it was just imagination. But the whispers grew more frequent, accompanied by an oppressive feeling, as if someone was very close, watching her every move. In another case, a man battling deep depression began to notice shadows appearing and disappearing quickly in his peripheral vision. They weren't ordinary shadows, but indistinct shapes, with contours seeming human, yet never fully revealed. He felt these shadows especially when sadness consumed him, as if internal darkness opened a door to something outside. At first, he thought it was just the product of a tired and disturbed mind, until fear started to take over his days and nights. Both cases share something in common. These people only truly noticed the presence accompanying them when they sought spiritual help, when they opened space for faith, prayer, protection. They understood they were not alone, but neither were they defenseless. These stories are a silent warning for those living in deep loneliness. Do not ignore the signs. Seek the light, strengthen your spirit, because often the presence that haunts the silence only leaves when you connect with the strength that comes from within and from above. Closing this invisible door that allows these dark presences to enter is not something that happens overnight. It is a daily journey, a constant practice of spiritual strengthening and inner presence. The first essential step is to pray, and pray out loud. Even when you feel empty, when your words seem dry and powerless, prayer spoken with faith and persistence is like a key that locks invisible doors. It creates a barrier of light, though silent, is impenetrable. To darkness. It is important to invoke the divine presence in the silence of your home. When you invite this light to inhabit every corner of your dwelling, when your mind and heart open to this greater force, the energy around you changes. The environment that once felt heavy becomes light, protected, and the shadow trying to settle finds no room to exist. It is also fundamental to avoid feeding isolation with habits that darken the soul. Avoid diving into excessive negative content. Do not let destructive thoughts dominate, and try to connect, even gradually, with people, nature, and what brings life and light. Remember, light does not need to shout to drive out darkness. It only needs to be present, calmly, firmly, lovingly. And when this light dwells in you, no shadow has power to remain. Closing that door forever is an act of courage. It is choosing not to surrender to emptiness. It is taking control of your own soul. And ensuring loneliness is never an invitation to darkness. Imagine again that person, alone in their room, wrapped in the night's shadows. The silence feels heavy, almost tangible, as if filled with an invisible presence. But now, something has changed. They light a candle, and the small yet living flame begins to gently dance in the darkness. The glow of that timid light breaks the veil of silence, bringing warmth and hope to the cold, empty space. With a calm voice, almost whispering, they begin to pray. Simple, sincere words echo around, filling every corner with new energy, a force unseen but deeply felt. This flame, this prayer, is not just a physical gesture. It is a powerful symbol that we are never truly alone. There is always a choice, a path to follow within us, that you have never truly been alone. But it is you who decides who will inhabit your silence. Will it be the shadow that feeds on your absence, or the light you nurture, even in the darkest moments? The decision is in your hands, and this choice can transform not only your life, but also the lives of those who walk beside you, even if invisibly. If this video touched something inside you, share it with someone who spends too much time alone. It may seem simple, but sometimes this small act is more important than we imagine. May the light always be present, even when everything seems silent.